Sorry?
25 years this year.
Of the foundation? Yeah, very good.
Okay, right, we're good to go. So we've got lots of afternoons and mornings for everyone in the room. So the room's nice and busy, which is great. So welcome, Dave. Welcome, Chief. You're both well.
Hiya.
Right, we're live on Facebook as well. So we're now broadcasting. So there we go. Okay, so if you don't know the rules by now, no kicking, no scratching, no pulling hair. No. So what we'd like to do is invite you to ask your questions. So we have Professor Dave Jones, OBE. We have Collette Thain, MBE. Oh, you put your whole email today. So
me?
He's in university. He's behaving himself. He's in the university.
If you look at the chief's title, we've got Collette at PBC Foundation.
Oh, okay.
So somebody's let the chief loose with technology again.
Right. So. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to hand you over to David with some questions. I just wanted to start to open and just give you a bit of information. So David is frozen, Caroline's saying. Maybe come out and come back in again, Caroline.
David is good for us.
So I just want to remind everyone, we're coming up to a year since we've been doing this, since lockdown and COVID appeared in this country and around the world. Now, the foundation, we work very hard at giving you the best information available, the very, very best and hot off the press. We're not able to give people medical advice because that's not what we're allowed to do, but we can give you medical information, and that's what our medical advisory board, David, whom is a very senior member of that board, is very happy to do, and they give up their time in order to do this. When it comes to the vaccine, we have Professor James Newberger has written a piece about the vaccine, and it went to Dave for any changes, comments, and it went to 25 other medical advisory members around the world for their comments and correction. And it's reviewed every time there's an update from governments or the World Health Authority, we update that. Now, on the subject of the vaccine, we've been getting some communication, which some of it has been rather unpleasant, about anti-vaccine and what you may think or what you may have read or what you may have seen. We are not here to tell you whether you do or you don't have the vaccine. We're here to provide you with the latest medical updates on the vaccine. Please try not to post anything on our Facebook. We have to take it down. We are not promoting anybody, particularly people who are making a lot of money and don't have medical qualifications. We can't do that. We're here to keep you all safe. And so my recommendation is, if you're not sure, and I don't blame you for not being sure, that is totally fine. Check it out with your own medical team. We'll do everything we can here, but when it comes to vaccines or anti-vaccines, that's not something we can actively engage in. Now, I'm speaking to you as the chief exec now, and I've got a whole body to look after, a corporate body here. And I'm going to, David would like to make a comment from a medical point of view. If you would like to, David, please.
Yes, so thank you, Collette, and I would echo all of those comments. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm obviously a hepatologist managing PBC patients for a long time, and I'm also a clinician working very actively. But also my university title is Professor of Liver Immunology, so my area of expertise is the immune system. So although I don't and haven't worked on vaccines, I am somebody whose area of expertise is the immune system. What I wanted to say is that I think these sessions are incredibly valuable as a forum to talk about PBC and the issues and challenges around PBC. And I think one of the reasons why I'm so keen to do them is that people struggle to get advice and guidance about PBC. And I think, therefore, they're incredibly valuable. My worry is that they have become more and more a forum to talk about vaccines. And I think that loses some of the value of what we're trying to do. These are PBC sessions, and I think we should stick to PBC rather than going into specific things around vaccines. What I would say is my following clinical view, and I've been very clear all the way through around the vaccines. So the first thing to say is that I've been vaccinated. All my family who are eligible have been vaccinated. And I would advise anybody who asks me whether they should have a vaccine to be vaccinated. I think that goes without saying. I would also say, as I've said frequently, that there have been two major advances in the last 200 years that transform public health. One is water being clean, and the other is vaccination. And I was talking to one of the junior doctors this week. When I started as a junior doctor in this hospital, we used to have iron lungs on the ward for victims of polio. Yeah. And we don't have that anymore, and we don't have that anymore because of vaccination. And I think we can sometimes forget what the world was like before vaccination allowed these things to be preventable. And I think it's very important that we remember that. The other thing is that I think it's just worth saying, and this is very personal to me, is that somebody I know well died of cancer in their 40s last week, leaving 3 children under the age of 9 without a mother. And that was somebody who was unable to get investigations for their cancer because of the COVID crisis. I think that's very important to realize. And so the more COVID goes on, the more we will have stories like that. And she's no longer in a position to worry about whether a vaccine is safe or not. The other is, and I don't want to scare people or create a negative image, but I've managed young people dying of COVID. And it is not a particularly pleasant thing to see or to wish that any person has. I've heard, like everyone else has heard, the scare stories about the clots with the AstraZeneca vaccine. I think it's very important that we trust the people who regulate what we do. So we have all worked very hard with the FDA in America, the EMA, MHRA in the UK about approval for drugs. And I can tell you the process that you go through to get a drug approved. We went through it all for obeticholic acid for PBC patients is incredibly, incredibly rigorous. And it is the balance of safety and effectiveness is what they look at. And I think we have to trust those organizations to do their job properly. And frankly, I would trust them rather than I would trust Emmanuel Macron for his views on vaccination. I won't give him my views on French politics. He shouldn't give me his views on vaccine safety and efficacy. So I think we have to trust the regulatory bodies that are out there and that have looked in this in detail. When the issue around clots and the AstraZeneca vaccine came out, I did a calculation myself. I'm a scientist. So I looked at the data. And I looked at the frequency with which you would expect to see clots in people randomly in the population. And the number of people vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine over the space of time over which we've been doing it, you would expect those people purely by chance to have 430 thrombosis events, 430. And as far as I'm aware, there have been something like 30 reported in people after the vaccine. So I'm not going to argue the vaccine prevents thrombosis. I think that will be taking the data too far. But I think it's important to say you can pluck a single example of something happening and put 2 and 2 together. And as I said, the last time we did one of these, genuinely after I got my vaccination, my car wouldn't start the next day. But I'm not blaming the vaccine for that. And finally, I think it's very important to realize is that there are a lot of people out there making a lot of money from the anti-vaccination movement. And be very careful who you listen to and be very careful who you trust. Because there are people, I'm not going to name names, but there are people making a large amount of money by offering alternative cures and alternative approaches. So whenever people tell you about the dangers of vaccines, you will normally find an opportunity for them to provide you with some service that allows you to get around it. And I think a certain degree of skepticism around all of that is important. So I have given my career to giving the best possible advice I can to people. And at the end of the day, people can take that advice or not. And for me, this is as clear-cut as it's possible to be. We are in deep trouble if COVID continues. We'll have more 41-year-olds dying of cancer. We'll have more young people dying of COVID. And we may not have a health service anymore when the money runs out. £200 million a day is what it is costing this country to manage COVID. And to me, the plausible way out of that is vaccination. And I see no risks at all associated with the vaccine. And I think it's therefore as close to blindingly obvious as it's possible to be. And I think it is dangerous and immoral that people profit from scaring people. There's a lot of talk I've heard about freedom of speech and that people can say what they want, and they absolutely can. But also as a society, we accept that you can't go into a crowded cinema and shout fire. There is an acceptable limit to freedom of speech, that you cannot harm the lives of other people through your right to have a freedom of speech. And I think that is very difficult, but I think it's a fact. So I think it's got silly over the last week. I think that a lot of stuff around the AstraZeneca vaccine is pure politics. It's Brexit again and again. And I think politicians in particular should grow up and stop dealing with things they don't understand. So yes, I have spoken in strong terms because I feel very strongly about this. And I don't think that people who scare people who have enough worries about their disease are doing anybody any service. And to do that, to profit from it, is frankly immoral. So I'm not going to take more questions about vaccines. My views aren't going to change. They're very clear cut. And I don't really intend to get into a debate about it with anybody. To me, it's very straightforward indeed. And I think the guidance is there. And I think we have regulatory bodies, certainly in the UK, that are the equal of anywhere in the world if they don't exceed it. And I have spent so much time arguing about the safety and benefits of things. I think we have to trust people to do that. So that's what I wanted to say. And I just think we should all move on from vaccines.
David, thank you very much indeed, and I'm sure you'll there's food for thought for everybody, because I know that people are unsure, and you're very definite what you think and feel, and I think we'll all benefit. So thank you so much, David. I think it's great.